Level 1. Death World Child. Your first breath does not bring oxygen, it brings fire. You wake into a world where the very atmosphere tastes of stagnant water, decaying flesh, and spore-laden sap. This is Catachan, a death world so hostile that the Imperium of Man classifies the planet itself as a hyperlethal organism. You learn to walk not on soft soil, but on carpet grass that secretes acid capable of melting through leather boots in minutes. Before you learn to speak a full sentence, you learn the sacred rule of survival. If it moves, it is trying to eat you. If it does not move, it is waiting for you to get closer so it can swallow you whole. Your playground is a green hell of nightmare flora and ravenous fauna. You watch your childhood peers vanish into the canopy, snatched away by strangler vines that constrict until bones snap like dry twigs. You learn to identify the whisper-thin rustle of a bark toad before it explodes in a cloud of neurotoxic vapor, and you learn to duck when the shadow of a razor wing sweeps across the dense mud. By your 5th summer, you do not play with toys. You carry a bone knife carved from the mandible of a native predator. Your mother dies of blood rot caused by a microscopic spore. Your father is dragged into a murky bog by a lurker drake while harvesting water tubers. You do not cry. Crying makes noise, and noise draws the ambushers. Your skin grows thick, leathery, and crisscrossed with silver scars before you hit pubertal age. You master the subtle language of the forest, the sudden silence of insect swarms that signals an apex predator nearby, the shift in humidity that precedes a toxic spore storm, the smell of ozone that means a brain-leaf plant is tuning its psychic lure. Out of every 10 children born into your tribal settlement, only 3 reach their 10th year. You are one of the 3. You are not strong despite your world. You are strong because your world tries to butcher you with every tick of the clock. Survival is not a goal. It is your only instinct. Level 2. Jungle Recruit. The pale, soft-skinned men from the Departamento Militarum arrive in massive steel landers that scorch the canopy, smelling of machine grease and unearned arrogance. They call this the Imperial Tithe. They believe they are drafting you into the Astra Militarum, taking their tax of flesh for the God Emperor's endless wars. You and your surviving kinsmen look at their pristine uniforms and polished brass buttons with quiet contempt. To these off-worlders, this is conscription. To you, taking the Emperor's coin is simply changing one jungle for another. Except off-world, the trees might actually be dumber than the ones back home. You are processed into a newly raised Catachan jungle fighter regiment. They issue you a standard cantrell pattern lasgun, a heavy weapon designed to be rugged. But to you, it feels like a toy compared to the heavy black iron hunting pieces your tribe forged in crude foundries. Then comes the real prize, your Catachan Fong. 15 inches of razor-sharp steel, weighted perfectly for clearing brush or severing an enemy's windpipe in a single fluid stroke. You wrap the hilt in leather strips soaked in your own sweat and grease. You strip off the suffocating standard-issue tunic, keeping only your heavy trousers, reinforced combat boots, and a red cloth bandana tied tight around your forehead to keep sweat and blood out of your eyes. Basic training is a joke conducted by off-world drill instructors who try to teach you how to march in tight, orderly lines. You laugh in their faces. When they drop your unit deep into the untamed deep jungle training reserves with 3 days of rations and tell you to survive for a month, you do not just survive, you thrive. You hunt the indigenous beasts for sport, construct lethal tripwire traps out of flexible vines and sharpened bamboo, and ambushing the instructor patrols just to steal their cigars. By the time the transport landers arrive to take you to the void ships, you aren't a raw recruit. You are a predator being packed into a metal crate, waiting to be unleashed upon a galaxy that has no idea what is coming. Level 3. Line Trooper. The metal doors of the Gorgon assault transport slam down into 3 feet of bubbling, rancid swamp water on an alien world thousands of light years from home. Welcome to the front lines of the Imperial Guard. Around you, regiments of Cadians and Mordians stand in tight, neat formations, their bright uniforms rendered useless, their polished boots sinking into the mire as enemy artillery shells tear them to pieces. They die by the hundreds because they follow tactical codices written by officers who have never stepped foot in a real swamp. You do not die. You drop low into the mud, letting the filthy water coat your skin, masking your heat signature and scent. You are a line trooper of the Catachan jungle fighters, deployed against Xeno's horrors and traitor heretics. While other soldiers panic when their lines break, you break your own line intentionally, melting into the dense brush like ghosts. You crank your lasgun's power cell to maximum output, a setting that burns through ammunition and melts the barrel over time, but turns every shot into a punch that can blow a hole through a heavy armor plate. You move through the shadows in small fire teams, speaking only in hand signals and bird calls. When an enemy patrol passes, you do not engage in a grand firefight. You wait until they are right on top of you, then burst from the undergrowth with a chorus of blood-curdling roars, thrusting your Catachan fong into soft armor joints. You watch off-world commissars try to shoot men for retreating, only for those same commissars to mysteriously vanish into the jungle 5 minutes later, victims of a stray round or an unfortunate native fauna attack. You learn the reality of the Imperial war machine. It is vast, stupid, and meat-grinding, but so long as you have cover, camouflage, and a clean blade, you can outkill anything the galaxy throws at you. You survive your first campaign, then your second, leaving behind fields of butchered enemies and horrified allies who cannot tell whether they fear the enemy or you more. Level 4, Catachan Devil. You no longer just fight in the jungle. You are the jungle. You have earned the moniker reserved for the most lethal ambush predators in the Astra Militarum, a Catachan Devil. You have been recruited into an elite squad of vanguard infiltrators, sent deep behind enemy lines where no heavy armor can follow and no orbital support can reach. Your mission is never to hold ground. It is to transform the battlefield into a nightmare realm of unseen death until the enemy's nerve shatters completely. You operate in small, autonomous fire teams, disappearing into alien death worlds, infested hive spires, or ancient preternatural forests for months at a time. You carry heavy flamer units, meltaguns, and customized sniper rifles, but your most dangerous weapon is your environment. You harvest the local poisonous flora to coat your blades and crossbow darts. You build ingenious, soul-crushing traps, pungy pits smeared with rotting gore, swinging log bludgeons studded with rusty scrap, and improvised explosive devices made from unexploded artillery shells tied to tension wires. You hunt orc knobs twice your size, stalking them through dense cover for days until they sleep, slipping behind them to slice through their thick green throats before they can sound an alarm. When the enemy sends patrols to hunt you, they find only the mutilated corpses of their comrades hanging from the high branches, painted with their own blood as a warning. Your skin is covered in dark camouflage paint, war scars, and tribal tattoos that detail every impossible kill you have claimed. You do not feel fear. Fear is an off-world emotion for men who rely on walls and artillery. You possess only a cold, calculating killer's focus. To the enemies of the God Emperor, you are not a man in a green uniform. You are a phantom that strikes from the dark, leaves no footprints, and disappears before the blood hits the ground. Level 5, Veteran Sergeant. The stripes on your shoulder are earned in blood, mostly the enemy's, but plenty of your own. As a veteran sergeant, you lead a squad of 10 scarred, ill-disciplined, death-dealing killers who trust you more than they trust the God Emperor himself. Half of them were born on Catachan. The rest are hardened survivors from other dead worlds who have earned the right to wear the red headband. You are responsible for keeping these bastards alive through the meat grinder of the galaxy's worst war zones, and you do it with an iron fist, a heavy bolter, and an absolute refusal to obey stupid orders. A fresh-faced commissar assigned to your company tries to lecture your squad on line formation discipline and proper uniform maintenance. You step into his personal space, towering over him, your massive biceps scarred from tyrannid acid, your hand resting casually on the grip of your chain's word. You lean down and whisper a quiet truth. In this squad, we don't salute, we don't march, and we don't wear helmets because helmets stop you from hearing the enemy creeping up behind you. If he wants to enforce the Imperial Creed, he can take the point position on the next night recon patrol. The commissar looks into your cold, dead eyes, pales, and decides to inspect another platoon. In battle, your squad operates like a single, lethal organism. You coordinate devastating kill zones with hand gestures alone. When a swarm of tyrannid gaunts rushes your position, you don't call for a fallback. You deploy your squad's heavy flamer in a sweeping arc of liquid fire. Then lead the charge into the inferno yourself, swinging a roaring chainsword that chews through chitin and bone. You check every body after the fight, pulling wounded troopers from the mud, bandaging their gouged limbs with field dressings, and sharing a flask of lethal home-brewed Catachan moonshine over the burning wrecks of enemy armor. You lose brothers, but you make the galaxy pay for every drop of Catachan blood with mountains of alien skulls. Level 6, Company Commander. You have survived long enough to inherit command of an entire Catachan infantry company, 300 of the most dangerous, unstable, and lethal human beings in the galaxy. You no longer just manage a single squad's kill zone. You command an entire sector of a green hell. Yet, you refuse to sit in a comfortable command bunker surrounded by maps and voxcasters like the pampered officers of other Imperial regiments. You wear your red headband, your sleeveless flak vest, and carry a customized plasma pistol alongside your trusty Catachan fauna. You lead from the very front, where the mud is thickest and the blood is hottest. Your tactical planning is considered madness by the high command of the Imperial Guard, but its results are undeniable. Where a standard officer would order a massive, frontal infantry charge against a fortified enemy trench line, you order your company to disappear. You split your forces into dozens of independent hunting cells, encircling the enemy, cutting their supply lines, sabotaging their ammunition dumps, and poisoning their water supplies. You turn the enemy's secure rear lines into a butcher's shop. When the trap is sprung, you lead the final strike personally, roaring a Catachan battle cry as your company collapses on the panicked enemy from every direction at once. You carry the weight of 300 lives on your shoulders. You know every man and woman's name, their home tribe back on Catachan, and how many kills they have logged. When a high-ranking Imperial general demands you send your company into a suicidal meat grinder to cover the retreat of an armored division, you tell him to go to hell. Execute your own tactical counter-ambush instead, save the armored division anyway, and leave the general with no choice but to award you a medal for a victory he was too cowardly to imagine. You are a commander of wild dogs, and you are the meanest dog in the pack. Level 7, Regimental Colonel. You are now the regimental colonel of a Catachan jungle fighter regiment. Thousands of battle-hardened warriors answer to your command, and your name is spoken with legendary respect across entire war sectors. You sit at the strategic war councils of war masters, lord inquisitors, and space marine chapter masters. They sit in their gilded armor and silk robes, staring at you. A massive, battle-scarred brute with graying hair, a sleeveless coat, covered in tribal war paint, resting boots caked in alien mud right on top of their holographic tactical maps. They look at you with disdain, but they know they cannot win this war without your killers. You fight two battles now, the war against the enemies of mankind, and the war against the incompetent imperial bureaucracy that treats your soldiers like expendable currency. When a Lord General attempts to waste your regiment in an ill-conceived siege campaign, you draw your 15-inch blade, slam it into the center of his strategic map table, and dictate your own terms of engagement. You will not sacrifice your troops for an off-worlder's vanity. You deploy your regiment across an entire planetary surface, executing a campaign of pure, unadulterated guerrilla terror that dismantles an enemy invasion force 5 times your size within months. You coordinate massed heavy mortar batteries, mechanized Sentinel scout squadrons, and airdropping Valkyrie insertions, blending brutal high technology with primeval wilderness tactics. You have seen entire worlds burn, watched starships shatter in orbit, and buried thousands of your kinsmen in foreign soil. The weight of your command has carved deep lines into your face, but your resolve is iron. You do not fight for glory, nor for the distant, cold god emperor on his golden throne. You fight for the survival of your regiment, for the pride of your home world, and to prove to a hostile galaxy that Catachans do not break, they conquer. Level 8, One-Man Army. You have passed beyond ranks, beyond orders, and beyond the comprehension of ordinary men. You are a living legend, a solitary force of nature, a one-man army. Your regiment was wiped out decades ago on a nightmare world at the edge of the galaxy, but you did not die. You simply stayed behind in the dark, hunting. The Departamento Militarum has listed you as missing in action, deceased, or a myth, but the enemies of the Imperium know you exist. They fear the shadow and the canopy more than they fear an orbital bombardment. You drop onto war zones alone, carrying no radio, no heavy support, and no promise of extraction. You step out of the shadows into environments so lethal that even space marines hesitate to tread. You stalk through chaos-corrupted death worlds, tyrannid-infested hive jungles, and orc-held fortress worlds. You carry a custom heavy ripper gun, a belt of improvised anti-tank explosives, and the same worn, notched Catachan Fong blade you carved as a youth on your homeworld. You do not communicate with Imperial forces. You simply appear where the fighting is most hopeless, butcher the enemy leadership, shatter their armor columns from the shadows, and melt back into the wild before anyone can clear the smoke. You hunt Chaos Space Marines clad in ancient power armor, slipping through their heavy perimeter guards, planting melta-charges on their demon engines, and driving your blade into their corrupted eye lenses in the pitch-black silence of the night. You have faced hive tyrants and orc warlords, leaving their colossal corpses rotting in the mud as silent monuments to human brutality. You do not sleep, you wait. You do not feel pain, you store it. You are the ultimate evolution of the human survivor, a primeval predator forged in the green hell of Catachan, unleashed upon an unfeeling galaxy. You stand alone atop a high ridge overlooking a burning, alien jungle. Below you, the broken remnants of an invading enemy army scatter in blind panic, hunted by ghosts they cannot see. You wipe the black blood of a slain alien beast from your blade onto your trousers, sheath the heavy steel, and tie your faded, crimson bandana tighter around your brow. You do not look for a ship to carry you home. You turn your back on the burning ruins, step quietly into the dark, tangled depths of the alien canopy, and disappear into the eternal war.